Hello and thanks for joining us here on France 24 for France in Focus. This week, we're going to be exploring France's thriving tech scene. It's a sector which now accounts for around 6% of France's GDP. Well, in this edition, we're going to be taking you to meet some of this new generation of French entrepreneurs. We'll also be finding out more about how they go about getting their businesses off the ground. Well, we're now at a highly sought-after so-called incubator here in Paris. It's one of a number of hubs that young business people are flocking to, and it's an environment where they can learn from each other. It's also a place where expert help is at hand. Let's take a look now at how it works.
A loft in the heart of Paris that's home to the city's brightest young entrepreneurs. A space where they can share their experiences, like finding out the best way to go about hiring people.
I got in touch with schools for internships through small job posting websites.
This is a startup incubator, a safe place where budding companies can trade business tips and even customers. For instance, Anne-Sophie and Kevin could end up being competitors down the line. They're both developing apps destined to France's biggest corporations, yet they help each other out on a daily basis.
I think we'll have to test the product for 2 to 3 weeks first. That way we'll have time to get feedback and find out if there are any bugs.
All day, the hive buzzes with activity. In Paris, many consider this incubator to be one of the best, so it gets many applications for new residents.
This year I've got 50 workshops a week. That's 320 children who come every week.
Claude is 41 years old and would love to get a spot here. Her company offers innovative and fun coding classes for children. She started 2 years ago and has 15 people working for her. But that's not enough to be selected. First, she has to put this unshakable jury under her spell.
We have to think we're going to have to work with this person. For example, some of the entrepreneurs we meet have no listing skills whatsoever.
If this particular incubator is so coveted, it's because of its unique model. There are 25 startups here, offering services or developing technological innovations. They're coached by 50 of France's most successful digital companies, like Price Minister, Le Bon Coin, or BlaBlaCar. In exchange for contacts or financing, the startups hand over 7% of their capital. Other companies can team up as well, offering free mentorship. That way, they can keep an eye on any up-and-coming innovations. A ray of sunshine in a lackluster French economic landscape. Paris is currently home to 3,000 startups and 36 incubators. And every year, about 1,000 new startups get funding in France.
Well, we're now just across the river from the French Finance Ministry at the site of what is set to become the largest startup incubator in the world. This is the brainchild of what is perhaps France's best-known businessman, Xavier Niel. Well, the project's manager is going to take us now on a little tour of the premises.
Just south of the River Seine, in the up-and-coming 13th arrondissement of Paris, a mammoth building renovation is taking shape. A former railway freight station is being transformed into Station F, a new home for start-up companies. The project's director, Roxane Vaza, shows us around.
So right now we're at the building entrance. We have different services on site. We have a Fab Lab, which is a space for prototyping. There's 3D printers, different types of machinery. You can see on the first floor, we've kind of kept the industrial look and feel of the building. We have these kind of big boxes that are going to be different meeting rooms.
Paris is already home to several startup incubator schemes, but this one is huge. 34,000 square meters, room for 1,000 firms, as well as an auditorium, financial and legal services, investor offices, and 24-hour restaurants.
I think it resembles probably more a campus than actually an incubator. The size of the space, the number of startups we'll have here, obviously that's going to be something that's really going to differentiate this space. 1,000 startups, I don't think you find that anywhere else in the world. We have maybe 10 startups a day that are contacting us. I've gotten Japanese, Canadian, from Latin America. So we're seeing a strong interest.
Roxane's from Silicon Valley and is very keen to attract international startups. But she does recognise some business conditions in France aren't ideal, saying it needs more tax incentives, for example.
lot of startups in France are actually funding their company with unemployment benefits or with very limited friends and family money during the first years. So I think there's still a lot that we can do.
Station F is the vision of French billionaire Xavier Niel, the founder of the telecoms company Free. He's invested 250 million euros here to try and boost the French startup scene.
This is definitely Xavier's idea. He felt France had a lot of small players, and when people would come to Europe, they would go to London, they would go to Berlin, they would go see bigger players in those ecosystems, and in France, it was just too small. And now people have a good reason to come here.
At age 31, this is a huge job for Roxane. She's started websites, conferences, and pioneered for women in technology, but never launched a startup.
I've done, I think, all the projects, I've kind of run them as if they were a business. You know, we do a conference, it has to not lose money. I've founded a media, it's not a product, but it's a platform. Having international experience is really important. Today, all the startups we see are global startups. I'm fortunate to have been able to live in these different locations. Silicon Valley, extremely strong in terms of startup, London as well, Paris now coming to its own. So I think, you know, having a network and experience across those fields is really, really important.
Roxane and her team have a tight deadline to launch Station F, the start of 2017.
Well, so far we've seen that help is at hand for people here in France trying to get their startups off the ground. But another essential ingredient is obviously money. Well, there are plenty of would-be investors out there. But before they hand over the cash, they obviously want to be sure they're going to get a return on their investment. Well, let's take a closer look now at how this financial side of things has worked out for a couple of budding entrepreneurs.
3, 2, 1. Ça y est, on est en ligne.
1 year ago, these two young entrepreneurs were celebrating the launch of their company Kids Planner, a website selling fun activities for children. Like many people in their 30s, François, Olivier and Kevin had dreamt of running their own businesses, so they quit their jobs and went for it.
Maybe around 3,000 people had the idea of starting something like Airbnb, but only one actually managed to succeed.
The key to launching a project is securing financial backing. The first port of call, the Public Investment Bank, a French organization for business development.
We launched the website to answer the question, what am I going to do this weekend? We realize now that what sells best are birthday packages. Why? Because they're not processed by traditional ticketing systems.
After convincing the investors, the entrepreneurs were given a €30,000 grant. If things hadn't gone their way, there are other places they could have tried. Job centres, local town halls and regional government offices all offer subsidies. It means anyone can have a go at building a business.
We offer grants to help project leaders and young companies cover their expenses when they start up. Even for research and development, we don't discriminate.
Kevin and François Olivier used the money to pay for graphic designers. The goal was to rework their website and draw focus to their birthday offers.
Kids are at the heart of our research. They want to copy their parents while having fun.
To succeed, every company must capture an audience. And what better place to choose than this Paris zoo? The young men behind Kids Planner managed to secure them as a partner.
Allez, copains.
For now, we've signed a year-long contract. They advertise our offers, 2 of which are exclusives. It's the first time we've sold birthday packages for kids.
Through Kids Planner, children can buy a package which lets them feed the animals for as little as €23. But if they're going to win more exclusives like this, François, Olivier and Kevin are going to have to sell a minimum number of packages. Meanwhile, they'll also have to find more money to grow their business. Rather than returning to the bank, they're looking into selling shares through crowdfunding sites.
I'm aiming to make 5 or 10 times what I invested.
The entrepreneurs want to get hold of €300,000.
To find a backer, your very first private backer, you have to use the same logic you'd use to find your first job. You have to prove your worth, send around a lot of dossiers, and just keep trying.
Kevin and François Olivier have no regrets. They epitomize a generation of entrepreneurs who are not afraid to take risks.
With economic growth relatively flat here in France and the unemployment rate stuck stubbornly above the 10% mark, there are a few bright spots on the horizon. But the tech sector is one of the rare exceptions. Salaries are high compared to the national average, and within the next 5 or 6 years, there'll be 200,000 new jobs created in this sector.
We've come to take them for granted. Smartphones packed with apps, web pages that entertain, inform and make life easier. But these students are far more interested in what's hidden behind the technology.
That's what the users are going to see. That's all the coding for the internet site. It's what generates what the user ultimately sees.
After just 4 months of classes and with no prior knowledge of computer science, Jérémy Messet and his colleagues have mastered the art of coding. And it's worth the effort. 85% of interns find a job at the end of the course.
A graphic designer who can both design and code a website is much more likely to get a job than someone who only knows about web design. This is the type of skills that companies are looking for nowadays.
Demand for web developers in France is growing fast. The field is projected to employ 200,000 people by 2022. Clément Etienne started this video game company 2 years ago. Currently, he employs 8 people, but he says he wants to hire many more.
We're looking to hire at least one developer in the coming months, and maybe another one at the end of next year. That would be 2 new people joining our team. It's quite a huge investment for us.
Here in this company, the starting salary is just 1,500 euros a month, but developers in the IT sector earn on average 3,500 euros.
Well, that's all we have time for this week's edition of France in Focus. Thank you for watching. See you again soon here on France 24.